So I mean, just one question I want to ask: is it really worth doing these off the grid segments? Seeing that Red Bull probably going to wipe the entire calendar, probably get a 1-2 in every calendar. You're just going to have more heartbreaks seeing Ferrari trundle around in probably sixth, seventh. Is it worth? Shall we just next year is our year again?
I mean, is it worth interviewing Charles Leclerc after every race just to hear him saying we're going to come back stronger, just to hear him have faith in the team and for the team
Yes.
to break him
And for Xavi to
every race?
continue not give him
Oh
information like
my
when
God.
somehow it's
I
about Ferrari. We're talking about we're going to talk about another team that's really struggling, but somehow we come back to
to
Ferrari.
come back to Ferrari. I think, yeah, I think we will eventually come to Ferrari again. I think at some point in this episode, but I think we'll start off with McLaren.
Yeah, we need to
Uh,
start off with
Once
McLaren.
again, it is also related to Ferrari because McLaren um, let go of their technical director James Key, and now they have a new structure in place. So just to explain the structure, so James Key, who is the technical director, has been let go, and now they have Andrea Stella, obviously, as team principal, overlooking everything, and reporting to him, they'll have David Sanchez, former one of the technical directors of Ferrari, who will be in charge of car concept, and then they have two other engineers, Peter Podromo and Neil Holding, in charge of engineering design and aero. So a new structure at McLaren. What do you think, Abhishek? What are your first thoughts? Is this like a reactionary move or what is this?
Yeah, I think so. It certainly looks like a reactionary move because let's face it, McLaren have to be. I mean, there must be like a lot of high tension there right now because the second race of the season and they are officially 10th, which is not great for a team that 2 years ago won a race, got a
Yeah,
1-2, were challenging for podiums.
yeah,
To go from that to last year, they had a mediocre car. They got a podium through Lando's brilliance in Imola, but also thanks to a Charles Leclerc mistake. Let's be clear about that. If that mistake doesn't happen, Leclerc would probably finish on the podium. But still, there were races where the car was decent. They had some good performances, notably Australia, where they had 5 and 6, and that's where we're heading to next.
yeah,
Maybe we might see another change there. The Imola podium, and a few races here and there, but mostly it wasn't the greatest of seasons because
yeah,
2021 they were challenging Ferrari for third place, 2022 they are challenging Alpine for fourth place, and currently they're challenging Williams for who's the tractor of F1 currently, which is not great,
yeah,
and it's a shame really because there were massive strides taken by this team over the last few years to get back towards the sharp end of the pack, the sharp end of the grid, after languishing at the back for so long with the whole Honda era, the McLaren Honda era from 14, 15 to 2018, was
yeah,
it? Um, yeah, so to see McLaren back again in that scenario where they are clearly nowhere in terms of pace. I mean, it was very telling when you saw that scenario where Lando had DRS, Sargent didn't have DRS, and he couldn't overtake the Williams on the
yeah,
straight, which is
crazy.
not a good sign.
Yeah,
Okay, if you're a McLaren fan. So there have been, there has been rather some kind of reaction, and I don't know what were the circumstances under James Key leaving McLaren, because he was pretty vocal about, as you said before the episode started, about the fact that they are bringing major upgrades to Baku.
cool.
So we don't know. I personally, I've not been able to see clearly what the circumstances were behind his leaving, but they're bringing in. They are clearly Zach Brown has made a few changes to see whether this kind of scenario will work, and only time will tell because you can only try and find out. Um, and we just have to wait and see clearly because it will be a reactionary thing, and maybe there might be a change in fortune. You never know, because this thing happens all the time, right? Where you follow a certain method, and when it doesn't go well, you bring about change,
Yeah,
and with that change, you get a reaction, and that reaction usually turns out to be positive. But the question is, of course, you have that period where you'll have some kind of positive result. The question is whether it can be sustainable. And you never know, maybe having three people uh, running your technical aspect of operations might help, reduce the workload that generally one person would have.
Yeah,
You could
yeah,
have
that's true.
more eyes, to get different aspects, and maybe you could find out problems that could arise much easier and find out
Yeah,
solutions. So maybe, I mean, clearly McLaren had gone with this plan, so they just got to stick with this. They just have to stick with this. And yeah, but I think as a McLaren, as a team, McLaren will be disappointed. But it was. I think it was disappointing from the start, because Andrea Stella said at the launch itself that they had not really achieved the goals they wanted to achieve
yeah,
at pre-season testing, and the fact that they had gone so far down the development road before realizing they had made a massive mistake.
yeah,
It was too late to backtrack, and the season is off, starting off on the back foot again. We might see a change with the upgrades coming in Baku, and McLaren might be. I don't expect McLaren to stay at the bottom, because the car is not. Even though Jeddah was awful, it was kind of the same story last year as well,
yeah.
and you could expect an upturn um, in their fortunes. You could, but you never know. Formula One is ruthless in terms of development. But yeah, I mean, they've gone down this road. It's important that they stick to what they have decided to do, and let the process work out, and see what happens from there. For there on.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only interesting thing, like you said, I think it's a very good point that you raised because, Formula One, it's not like 10, 15 years ago. Formula One, it keeps getting more and more complex, and the sport is obviously developing. So, like you said, it like having more than one person in that role like makes a lot of logical sense. But if you look at things historically, and we spoke about this before we started the episode, the
Yeah,
last 13 constructors championship, if you take the last team, if you take Red Bull and Merck, the teams that won in the last 13 years, both of those teams have had a very traditional structure, which is one technical director who oversees. So the role of a technical director, obviously, aside from the team principal, is to overlook the development of the car. So every technical aspect goes through that one individual, and they obviously will have a few things they look into personally, and the rest will be handled by the other engineers. So Adrian Newey obviously built Red Bull's title-winning car from 2011 to 2013, and
2010.
2020 to 13, and obviously he's building the car right now, and for Merck it's been James Allison who's overlooked that role. So it's very much that structure that has worked because when you when you look at it, like building a car, obviously there has to be like a level of accountability, which last year with Ferrari, maybe that was the issue because of one thing we're coming to Ferrari, but Mattia Binotto was overlooking the whole technical director role there, which didn't like as you know uh, people talk about his brilliance as a technical director, but the team principal role itself has a lot of aspects to it. So trying to maybe merge those two roles together may have been too much work, but
Probably not the best idea. Yeah,
yeah, probably not the best idea. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how McLaren goes about this because just like you said, I think 2 seasons ago, a, a huge, I mean, a majority of the sentiment was that more than Ferrari, McLaren would be the team to take the next step and become like a top three, a top two team and challenge the front runners, right? That was the sentiment, especially after they won. They won in Monza. I think that was the sentiment. They were like, McLaren's going to take the next step. This team is developing. They have Lando. They have Daniel. And last year was really bad. So, and they've clearly gone backwards even from last year, and it is a concept issue. But I guess it's a good thing that they've understood the concept issue and that they're going to fix it. But my question is, right now they're obviously where they will be in Baku. I think is where they want at least how they would have wanted to start the season with.
exactly. Yeah,
So when they come to Baku with those upgrades, the rest of the grid would have also developed their car, right? They would also bring in new upgrades. So McLaren are essentially like 3-4 races behind.
Yeah.
So my question is, I think, where well, not my question to you, but just in general, is where is this car going to, and where do you think that they're going to end up at the end of this season? Because if they think that this season is completely done, I think maybe they should just start looking at at
It's
2024, because
2024.
yeah, because let's be honest, that even from the front runners, there is very clearly one front runner, singular. So they're not going to be. I think McLaren's not going to be fighting for the title, obviously. But even to challenge, like, who are they going to challenge? I don't think they can challenge Alpine personally. They clearly can't challenge Aston or Merc or
No, they
Ferrari.
can.
So, like you said, I mean, they're fighting with Williams now. So, uh, I don't know if moving James Key was the best choice. I guess once again, we have to look at it like from it's a results based sport, so we have to look at it on how
Yeah.
they perform from here.
Yeah, I think so because like I said, I don't know exactly what the circumstances were with James Key. I don't know whether there was some kind of falling out or something like. Do you know anything? I don't know. But
Not to my knowledge either. So
yeah, I don't know whether anything has come out on that. But as to where they might end up, I don't know. I feel like they last year's car was not great. For me, it was nowhere, but even being nowhere, it was still faster than some of the other cars. So
yeah,
maybe their race this time they were fighting for P3 last year, previous year. Then last year they were starting for P4. This year probably P5 with Alpha, Haas. Probably I think that's where
yeah,
they'll probably be. Unfortunately, because for one, I don't think Alpha and Haas have made that much of a step as well. I mean, they are, especially Alpha. I think another thing, I know it's off topic, but I kind of find, I don't know whether I just didn't I read too much into the testing times because they had pretty decent testing and they had some
mm,
decent times, but they don't seem to be as strong as they were this time last year, where they were clearly challenging Mercs for P5. But looks like the battle, that it's that battle that McLaren will have with Alpha and probably Haas, which is a shame. But yeah, that's why it is. And as you said, the upgrades coming to Baku, it depends. They already had an idea of where they should go, and that's where they focus their upgrades on. But they also have some data from these particular races. Whether it's too late to add to those upgrades by the time they come to Baku, who knows? But keep in mind there's a 3 week break between Australia and Baku. Whether that's enough
yeah,
time to add those extra information and get more performance, who knows? That depends on the efficiency of their engineers and whether they can actually do it under the cost cap and all those other technicalities that are present right now in F1. But yeah, I think it's a shame that they are on the back foot, especially after going through all the hassle with getting Piastri, going to war with Alpine to get him and having a star like Lando. Because, and you got to feel from the driver's side as well. The big question, even asked, did Oscar make the
yeah,
biggest mistake of his life by leaving Alpine and going to McLaren? And the only guy who has won out of this is Daniel Ricciardo because he got 80
mm.
million to not drive
Not driving McLaren.
19th and 20th, and that's people say that was probably 80 million that McLaren could have used for
Yeah,
upgrades and developments. So
yeah,
the situation, I think, I mean, it's clearly unfortunate because, like you said, 2021 they looked like a really good team. That the
yeah,
team that they could really build on that. That Monza win, yes, Verstappen and Hamilton were out of the race, but they still managed to finish ahead of one Red Bull and one Merc. The Merc came from
yeah,
P20 or something, but still,
yeah,
they had pace. It was not as if it was a rain affected this thing, rain affected race. They had some
yeah,
decent pace at Monza. It was only at Monza,
yeah,
and they had decent pace. It was in the rain in Sochi
yeah.
before Lando
They could
spun.
have won that race, I think.
Yeah,
If
but decent pace in Monza. It was on
yeah,
pure pace, even though the Red Bull and the Merc came from the back of the grid. But yeah, but just wanted to add one more thing before we move on, because even though McLaren's team has support, I support United was them, but um, since I've not watched the sport for as long as you clearly watched longer than me. Just one thing I want to ask you, like, a lot of things that I've been seeing is that McLaren fans they keep shouting, Zach should be the one that's shown the door. You know,
Yeah.
what do you think? Do you think that's justified? The fact that there's a bit of frustration towards Zach. I think a lot of these are also coming from Daniel Ricciardo fans because
Mm.
when Ricciardo was struggling, Zach was quick to point out that Lando is driving well, Daniel is not. Maybe it's not the car, it's Daniel. And right now, it's clearly
Yeah.
the car that's the problem because again, Lando is struggling, and you have a new guy in Oscar. Maybe Oscar doesn't have the experience. You can leave Oscar aside. But then now Lando is also struggling in the same car, the car that's supposed to be built around him. So what do you think? I personally I don't think Zach deserves that because I think he pulled the team out of the mess they were in. He went through a hard time and
Yeah.
bought the P3
Exactly.
in the constructors. So maybe not. But do you think that's justifiable? That some people say that maybe it's Zach.
No, I absolutely not. I think that clearly, la- I don't think even from inside the organization, anyone, like you said, I think to address the Ricardo question, whether it was the right choice or not, I think Ricardo had a horrible season last year, and whether Ricardo would be in the car right now, like even if he was driving right now, I don't think it would have been an improvement because the car is really bad, right? So I think they took a decision to sign Piastri, looking at the future. I don't think. I mean, obviously, if Ricardo was close to Lando last year, they maybe would have kept him. I know a lot of people like Daniel Ricciardo, and I like Daniel Ricciardo as well. And it is surprising that he doesn't have uh, a seat in Formula One, but that's on him, right? I think if I'm correct, he was offered the Haas.
Haas
I
and
think,
Williams, I
yeah,
think, proposed. Yeah,
yeah, I think he was offered Haas or Williams. So
but
he
I
didn't take.
think he just didn't. It was not basically enough money he was offered. Basically, I don't think he was offered enough money for his.
Yeah, possibly, and maybe he didn't want to drive those cars. But once again, I'm sure that if he really wanted to, he could have taken one of those drives in one of the lower teams. But he said he wanted a year to work on himself and a year away from driving the car. So that's not on Zach Brown or anyone like that. I think that's just Ricardo's performance last year and Ricardo's decision. So I don't think that okay, they obviously didn't bring in Oscar Piastri for one season to replace Daniel Ricciardo. They brought in Oscar Piastri because he's one of the biggest prospects in Formula One, and that he
And he
and
showed it with his performance in Q3.
yeah,
Really good.
exactly. Like
He
he's, I
qualified
mean, he's
good.
beating Lando. Like he's doing what Ricardo couldn't really do. So I think that I don't think that was like a knee jerk reaction. I think that was something that they decided for the future. And I think that's a good choice. And in terms of Zach Brown, I mean, like he's such an experienced guy, not just in Formula One. Like he has experience in so many other categories of motorsport, and from the time that he properly like he started McLaren, like he focused on McLaren fully in 2016. Like he took them from a really bad spot to, like you said, to winning races, and he took the team to a really good position. And obviously with McLaren, I don't think it's a badly run team. I just think they have something very wrong with their car concept, just like with Merck, right? I mean, no one's trying to fire Toto Wolff because Merck built a bad like. It's not comparable because Merck is an eight-time constructors championship. It's a different story. But I don't think that Zach Brown is the issue. I don't think uh, you know anyone within that team really blames Zach Brown from like what we have heard in news reports or anything like that.
Yeah,
So I think, yeah, there's probably a lot of angry Daniel Ricciardo fans, but
probably.
I no, I don't think so. I think he's a really experienced guy, and he has so much experience in motorsport, and he, like I said, he took McLaren from a really bad spot to winning races, and then uh, they obviously have to change their concept, and in this cost cap era, it's not going to be easy, but I don't know what the solution is, but I don't think it's like firing Zach Brown. I don't think that's going to do anything. If at all, it'll
Yeah,
just make McLaren a
making
lot,
things worse. Yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah, I think so. I think so. It's just that it's something that has been popping up, and it's something I
Yeah,
found really bizarre to
yeah,
see in the
honestly,
comments. To see people saying, it's Zach, get Zach out. But I mean, he made a tough decision, yeah, because
yeah,
Daniel's a good driver. But then Everyone does that, you know.
Yeah,
It's just what it is. That's the name of the game, basically. That's what you got
yeah,
to do. It's the survival of the fittest, and if you sleep, you know, you're done. Basically,
yeah,
that's how tough it is in this sport. So yeah, I think from Zach's perspective, obviously they are in rough waters at this time, but I think he has a level head and, like you said, a lot of experience in motorsport to get them out of this problem.
yeah,
But only time will tell how long they will take to get out of this problem. So, but that's it on McLaren. I feel we've spoken on them quite enough.
yeah,
All right, so that's it about McLaren. Hopefully, their fortunes change from Baku or from wherever. Who knows, from Australia? Last time it was Australia. Again, an Australian in his home race. Maybe it might work. And they get P1, P2. I'm just joking. uh, moving on to the actual P1 and P2, currently on the F1 grid,
yeah.
the defending Constructors World Champions and the current defending World Champion, Drivers World Champion, Red Bull, and a possible, it's probably minute, you know, bit of
Mm.
how do I say? I don't want to say feud because it's not really a feud, but something, a bit of a spice
Mm.
happening there right now, and it's kind of bringing F1 fans back to 2016 with
Mm.
Merck and Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. So everything is going quite well in Jeddah. You know, Perez has a comfortable lead up front. Max has, you know, of course, being Max, he somehow survived the carnage. I mean, Gasly knocks, just taps Oscar Piastri's front wing, and the whole thing just, you know, goes
Yeah.
off, and he has to pit. And in amidst all that carnage, Max just goes through like nothing, no one's business, and he's up in P2.
It was actually it was Lance Stroll, right? That actually caused the.
No, it was, I think it was Gasly who knocked Piastri, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it was Stroll parking the car that caused the safety car. Actually.
Yeah, no, what I was talking about was the fact that, you know, there was carnage in the opening lap.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah,
Piastri's wing goes and
yeah,
but
yeah,
somehow
yeah,
Max doesn't, you know, he's just
yeah,
non-existent at that point. It's
yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
his car's a
definitely.
ghost, and you know he's comfortably P2. And then Max asks Checo's time. He tries to match them, finds
Yeah,
out that he can't really match them, can't catch up to Checo, and he's risking losing his tires or doing having reliability problems again. So he like goes back to the requested lap times, and then asks for the fastest lap.
yeah,
And then they are told, GP tells him, we're not worried about that now. Max says, but I am. Okay. Then Checo also asks about the fastest lap, and he said that they tell him, you have it, don't worry, keep 133.
yeah,
They tell Max the same thing. Then there's a bit of up and down going. Like, I think Max starts doing 132s, and then Checo is asking what is Max doing. And then when they tell him, they're like, but why? Why do you need to push? Well, it's so unnecessary. And then after that, on the last lap of the race, Max takes fastest lap,
yeah,
thus giving him the lead in the championship.
yeah.
So, Shavin, first of all, do you think Checo, if it's only Red Bull and
Mm.
if it's only Red Bull, if no other team can find a solution, we don't know, Merca supposed to bring a completely new car, but in Baku or something like that.
Yeah.
Who knows? Ferrari might do something, Aston might have something, who knows? But let's just say it's just Red Bull. First question: can Checo genuinely challenge Max for the title? Is he the new Nico Rosberg?
I mean, it's an interesting question because I think a journalist asks this from Christian Horner. He's like, "What does Checo have to improve to beat Max?"
I know.
And
I
Horner
know that.
says his lap time.
Yeah,
I mean, uh, so obviously, Max had an issue, and then he had to start from from 15th, I believe.
yeah.
15th he started, and then as a result of a safety car, he made it to second. Great drive from him, but I think for once we saw that, not for once, but Checo did match his pace, right? Like he couldn't catch up to Checo even once he came into second. Checo was very much keeping that gap, and he was managing the tires, managing the pace really well. So um, it's very difficult to say, I think, because the thing with Checo is even last season he started off fairly strong, and then Max sort of took over, and he ran away with the championship. So I think the real question is, which is what I think you're going to ask me next, is will Red Bull let Checo fight Max for the championship? I think that is the big question, because even if he does start winning, like if he wins in Australia, if he takes the lead, if he keeps winning, firstly, are they going to let them race? If they don't let them race, how are they going to manage it? And uh, I think that's the big question. What do you think?
First of all, I think if it's again comes back to that whole thing of if it's only Red Bull,
Yeah,
if it's if Aston Martin make a jump, which seems a bit of a stretch because
yeah,
already it's a massive jump, and
yeah,
it's this is not. I mean, if it's not kind of like what Wonderland or something where you can just. I mean, they would have put a lot of money into that, making that jump already.
yeah,
They have the resources, but there's the budget cap.
yeah,
So we don't know how much more of a jump they can make. I'm talking
yeah.
Aston here. Merck might find something. I feel Merck because they are Merck.
Okay.
Ferrari. I'm still. I know Saudi was a horror show for Ferrari, but I'm still. By the way, I think it might be a bit unclear for those who regularly watch our show. We actually had a conversation because we recorded an episode after was it
Yeah,
Bahrain? Yeah, we recorded an episode after Bahrain. Unfortunately, we
we couldn't
couldn't
release it
release
in
it.
time.
I don't know why we couldn't release it, but it was
Yeah,
right before Jeddah. The episode got prepared right before Jeddah, and there was no point,
yeah,
so that's why we didn't release it. But in that episode, I spoke about how I still believe that the Ferrari still, if you look at the qualifying pace, is still close to the Red Bull, I would say,
yeah,
and still ahead of Aston and Merck. It's just their problem with their race pace, which is
mm,
kind of terrible at this point. I know why, especially with the hard compound tire, which I don't know why they just like the hard compound tire. It can't be just a hard compound tire because like the hard compound tire for one race is sometimes a soft compound for the next race. So
yeah,
I don't know. There's something going on there with that tire management. But on if you look at qualifying pace, where the car is usually the fastest, the Ferraris it has like in terms of like the Red Bull has advanced in terms of pace because now it's
yeah,
beating the Ferrari because last year the Ferrari was still ahead,
yeah,
but still the Ferrari is there, you know,
mm,
in the challenge for P1. But yeah, that's just another story. So coming back to this, right now, if it's only Red Bull, I think Red Bull have no choice but to allow Checo fight Max because that's how they're going to, you know, that's how they're going to manage the championship,
mm,
their drivers because I don't see a situation where Horner says, yeah, yeah, you know what, don't challenge Max. You're just here to get the extra points. I don't think Red Bull. I don't know. Maybe I don't know the sport enough to
mm,
make this. But from what I say, I don't see a reason as to why Red Bull would do that unless they start crashing into each other. Then that's a different. Then Horner will have to go back to his old get back to his older self and remember how he handled the Weber and Vettel situation. I guess when they were fighting for wins. But yeah, I think Red Bull should allow Checo to fight for the championship as well. I mean, they've been pretty open about it. They'll be like, they look to manage the two drivers and give them both equal opportunities because not only Horner, I think Dr. Helmut Marko has said that they have worked really hard to make sure that they give a car to both drivers
yeah,
where they both feel comfortable.
yeah,
It's not just favoring one driver and leaving the other driver in the dust, which was quite what happened last season because
yeah,
it was the start of the season the car actually favored Checo more. That's why he was more closer. Yeah, Max won more races, but that's because Max is kind of a freak, isn't he? He's like really good at driving any car. But Checo is, I meant that in a good way for Max
yeah,
fans, and if Max is watching, freak as in you're an absolute genius because Max watches our shows. He's a massive fan. Uh, but Max is crazy. He's just crazy good, isn't he? He can drive
yeah,
anything basically. But then when the car starting to get oh my gosh, I'm forgetting my English with me living in France. I think in France. Sorry,
mm,
with the car getting developed. Sorry,
yeah,
with the car getting developed, it suited more to Max, and
yeah,
thus you saw Max running away with the championship and Checo
mm,
not really being able to challenge. But Red Bull have made this. made the effort to make sure that both the drivers feel comfortable by the way this looking at their interviews and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, I think Checo I think they will allow him to challenge for the championship. If by some chance Ferrari, Merc, and Aston bridge the gap massively at this point, then it will come to a point where they probably decide it will definitely be Max. There's no, I mean, I feel sorry for Checo, but there's no way they're going to
Mm.
back Checo against Max. It's really tough unless Max has
Yeah.
like what, about 6 or 7 DNFs and he's like completely
Yeah.
out of the title pictures on that. Even then, you'd still back Max to like win the next what 6 DNFs from now is what, that's 7 races in. That
Yeah.
that that means 16 races remaining. You still back Max to win those 16 races, because of the way
Yeah.
he's driving right now. He's so good. So, but regardless, if it's not, I think they will allow
Mm.
both of them to race. But I think the important question is what, going back to what I said, Max was told to keep a 133,
Yeah.
but he went against and did a 132.6. And you could see there was a bit of a tense moment there because Checo was kind of annoyed that he was told to keep
Yeah.
133. Max was also told to keep 133.
Yeah.
He goes 132.6. He first thought that they told him one thing and told Max another thing,
Yeah.
but that wasn't the case because they were both told the same thing. And Max just basically went against team orders, decided to do his own thing and did a
Yeah.
132.6 and got faster lap. So the question is, if Max decides to continue doing this,
Mm.
what does Checo do? And what does Christian Horner do? That I think that's the big question. Because clearly, if things are going to continue like this, maybe you're just reading into this and maybe it's just a one-off, but we
Mm.
don't know. Like after Red Bull looked to be such a perfect team until Brazil, until Sao Paulo. Sao
Yeah.
Paulo just opened a can of worms, in my opinion. Like everything just
Exactly. I
that
agree.
trying to spell it off as in, oh no, Max and Checo are like great and stuff, but there's
Yeah.
something off there right now, and you can
Yeah.
see it. And that's the question because does Checo think, what, if Max is going to do it, uh, then I mean I can't. These 2 years are probably the last 2 years I have to win the championship because he's 32 or 33.
Yeah.
After this, there's a good chance that Red Bull might not keep him because they have younger drivers
Yeah.
in like Sunoda, and now they have De Vries, who has not started off pretty well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, but he's still a top driver. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a pretty good driver, Nick De Vries, and they have a plethora of talent waiting in the sidelines. So these are Checo's last chances, these 2 years
Yeah.
to win the championship. And then you have Horner, who's going to be in a bit of a pickle because of course Max is his golden boy for
Yeah.
sure, but then he would also uh, not like to have these kind of squabbles, because that will
Yeah.
affect the team. So what happens if Max continues to do this?
Uh, I think that's a great question. I think it really depends on. See,
You have a long one. I don't even remember the question. Do you remember the
no,
questions
I
asked?
mean, the question you asked me was like, if Max continues to defy team orders, like,
Yeah,
how will this play out, right?
just for the
Yeah.
fans, in case you forgot the question, I was
Yeah.
running it for a good 1 minute, I
I
think.
I think it comes back to one thing, which is how competitive can Checo really be? Because if you look at 2014, 2015, or 2016, um, Nico was very competitive, like even with Lewis.
Of
I
course,
think
yes.
14 maybe not as competitive, but he was still winning races and he was pushing him a lot.
Yeah, I
Like
think if I'm not mistaken, it was actually 15 where he was not
yeah,
competitive
50,
because
yeah, maybe
because
yeah, yeah,
15 Lewis won the championship with 3 races to go,
yeah,
whereas
yeah,
14 Lewis won on the last race and
yes,
16
yes,
Nico won. Yeah, of course, yeah.
yes. 14 was when he's I think
Car broke, yeah,
yeah, car broke
in
down.
Abu
Yeah, that
Dhabi. He
was
was
so
actually on pole, and
yeah,
if he
yeah,
won that race, he would have won the championship. But
yeah,
his
yeah,
car broke. I mean, Lewis beat him to the start anyway, and Lewis was on,
yeah.
and then his car broke.
That was
Yeah,
really sad because I remember the team radio. He was saying like, "What do I need to do?" and "What do I need?" Like, yeah,
and he
but
was like, "I like to continue to the finish, even though it's like what
yeah,
in P12 or something like."
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, yeah. And yeah, and see the thing is like Nico was very competitive, and Nico obviously Nico knew how good Lewis was, but I think Nico genuinely believed that he could beat him, and the way he beat him, it's a different story, like the mind games and whatnot. I genuinely think that once Hamilton retires, he's going to write a book on what Nico Rosberg did to him.
yeah,
Uh, I think there's this one. one thing that I know this is off topic, but there's one thing that Lewis says that when they were on when they were in opposite rooms, and Lewis was, I think Lewis used to nap or something before practices. Nico used to take a tennis ball and bang it against the wall
Oh,
so
yeah,
that Lewis couldn't
I didn't know
sleep.
that.
I mean, like, it's just those small things like that. I don't know if Checo is going to do those to Max or whatever, but
No, I don't think Checo can afford to, no, because
yeah,
Checo will
I don't
probably
think
get.
Checo can afford to do that.
So,
But like I said, I think it's really on how competitive Checo is. Like, if Checo genuinely is winning race, then if he's competitive, if he's out qualifying him and all those things, then I think it's going to be really hard to sort of deny him unless they just completely stop like developing the car for him. So
yeah,
uh, and personally, from every indication is that they are running away with the title. I don't think that it doesn't seem like any team is very close. I think last year Ferrari seemed closer to Red Bull than they are now. So now
yeah,
they seem much further back. So um, I would my my answer to this question is no. I think they're not going to let him fight. But the only way that he is going to get the option to do that is if he keeps just beating Max, and they're not going to have an option. But I think apart from that, if he's a few points behind and if it's close, I think they're going to favor Max. That's what I think.
no, Mike, I think you forgot the question. No, the question was, what if, let's say that's the case, that
Yeah.
Checo challenges, but
Okay.
Max starts disobeying team orders.
Yeah.
What's the scenario there? What does Checo do and what does Horner do? Christian Horner.
I mean, I think Checo's not going to like it. I think, but I think Red Bull is going to back their two-time world champion. That's what I think. I
Yeah,
mean, like, I would be shocked if they don't do that. Like, if they don't do that, I would have a lot of respect for the like. I don't know if I would have respect for the team, but I would be shocked if they don't do that. Like, because I think they would back Max in most situations unless like Checo is really like leading him by like 30, 40 points, and in a situation like that, maybe not. But I think if it's close, they'll always back Max. That's my gut feeling. But I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong going into the season. We'll see. What do you think?
no, I think, yeah, I'm with you. I think obviously
Yeah.
because we've seen them do the same thing before with
Yeah.
Vettel and Weber, isn't it? But
Yeah.
Weber being the most experienced guy, but then Sebastian was the guy, the champion.
Yeah.
So obviously they would back him.
Yeah.
Maybe March 21, which was actually today, I think, back in 2012 or 13, today or yesterday.
Yesterday,
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, maybe Multi 21, they would have had a few words with him or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's the same with Max, obviously, because Max is their future, their present and their future, I would say,
Yeah.
because he's only 25, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Checo, yes, he has been a good driver for them and he's had them in the championship, but they can't put their future on Checo because Checo
Yeah.
just has, I mean, even if Checo can drive, like the future, I mean, if they want to secure their future, like the other teams have, because Ferrari
Yeah.
has Leclerc, even they have Sainz as well, but Leclerc is their guy that they want to, carry on to the future. Whether he wants to carry on, that's a different thing. But uh,
I don't know if he can take it, bro.
that's the
How much
thing.
can one man take?
How much can one bad take? Merck have a seven-time world champion, but they
Yeah.
got their future sorted with Russell.
Yeah.
Aston Martin
McLaren.
have Fernando Alonso till, till 2050. uh, McLaren have Lando. All these teams have
Yeah.
their guy, the team they want, the guy to take their team forward.
Yeah.
So obviously that's not Checo. It was not because of anything else, because Checo is much older. He's like
Yeah.
32,
Yeah.
33.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
100%.
drivers usually tend to retire, around 37, 38,
Yeah.
So obviously it's Max. And they can't take the risk of, actually supporting Checo in another, if such thing goes down like this,
Yeah.
saying, no, Checo is right. I mean, if Checo is actually right, then they probably have to tell him, but,
Yeah.
like taking Checo's side in something, because what
Yeah.
if Max says, okay, fine, I don't want to be here anymore? There's no team is going to say no to Max Verstappen
Exactly.
coming to not even Merck. I don't know. I really think Merck would. I mean, okay, maybe Merck because of Russell, maybe, and because of what's going on there. But you think Ferrari will say no to Max Verstappen?
I think Aston Martin would be
Definitely.
a very interesting.
No. They can't touch. No, I'm not told. Probably they can put it out. Put that. No, that's joking. I don't know. Do you? I. It might be. It might get a bit contentious, but do you think Ferrari might say no to Max Verstappen?
Hmm. I don't know honestly. I don't think I don't know if he would have the patience to deal with that team like
No,
personally.
bro. He will chase them out. And Max will chase them out. I feel. He'll probably like Michael was. If I from what I read, is that Michael used to be like very strict, right? He used to be like, you know, he does,
Yeah,
no nonsense kind of thing. No, oh, we are Ferrari, we are good even if you're not good kind of thing with him. Like
yeah.
Max is all about that. I mean,
I think clearly like Max loves Red Bull and he wants to stay with it.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
see
yeah.
him driving any other team.
This is just a hypothetical thing. I mean, that I
Yeah,
just I just asked that question because
yeah, yeah.
I still think that most teams will, almost every team will want
100%.
Max.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Any team
think
would take him.
maybe Merck slightly, yeah, because of
Yeah,
I mean, because of the whole rivalry. But that's
yeah,
what I'm saying. So if it comes to a situation where Max like, okay, fine, if you all don't take my side, then why should I be here?
yeah,
If I don't, probably won't happen. But they can't take that risk.
yeah.
So
And I don't think they will. Like clearly they have a favorite driver in that
yeah,
team.
yeah, for
I
sure.
think. Yeah. So
So yeah, I think for Checo, but I think from Checo's side, I think he knows that this is probably his last two opportunities to
that's
win the
true.
title. So maybe he might do some pushing of his own, saying
Yeah,
this nonsense can't stand. If it does, then what he's got to do is probably realize that okay, fine, he's not going to get support, and then he decides okay, he's not going to listen to team rules,
yeah,
and then realize that him not listening to team rules will result in this being his last season to challenge
yeah.
because they probably terminate his contract right after, and then go all out for this season and hope for the best. But
I
it
mean,
doesn't
he has
look
to decide if he wants to be a Valtteri Bottas or Nico Rosberg, I guess, right?
exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, exactly. But
yeah,
yeah, I think I don't know whether we're just reading too much into the situation and maybe it's chill, even though Max is a competitor. He doesn't want, like he said, this is not
no,
racing to be second.
I hope Checo drives well,
Yeah,
please.
true, true, true. Now I'm talking about the animosity side. Like,
Yeah,
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 who knows? Because Max last year said, people are assuming things, not knowing the real
yeah,
story. We don't know what that real story is, but
yeah,
I mean, no point in just trying to create animosity. We're not trying to survive, I guess. uh, but yeah, I think for the sake of the season, because right now, like you said, it's only Red Bull. Maybe Checo can challenge for Max for the title. But hopefully there's no. It's because it'll be a shame if they have a falling out because
yeah,
uh, they were so for teammates they were really close. I would say they were very friendly. Checo helped Max, in 2021 defending Lewis, and then in 2022 there were times where he helped, like he forcing Charles off, helped Max win the title in Japan where they could celebrate with Honda and all that. So
mm.
um, yeah, but from the season's perspective, hopefully we have Checo challenging Max. But yeah, I think that's about it for Red Bull. I think we only said we'll talk about two teams, but we somehow managed to drag this for so long. But it's
Yeah.
fine. We'll have to talk. Uh, just our final segment. Looking ahead into Australia, what do we expect? How many seconds by how many minutes does Red Bull win? Which lap does
Um,
Charles's car break down?
I think they don't even make it out of the garage. I feel like
Yeah,
they're gonna
they forget
leave
the
the tires
gearbox.
in a different country. The
Forgot the
front wing
gearbox.
will be at Maranello or
Yeah.
something. But no, I think honestly, I think unless something astronomical has happened over the last 2 weeks, it's gonna be a Red Bull win. I'm saying Perez, No, I'm gonna say Max, Perez, and Russell. I'm gonna say George gets a podium somehow. So I'm gonna say Max, Perez, Russell.
Mm. I'm going to say Perez again
Okay,
because it's a street circuit,
okay,
and
okay.
and he's the king of the streets. So
Yeah,
it's probably going to be Max, but then well, I say stick with Perez. Max
okay,
probably P2 because yeah,
okay,
it's inevitable. It's either P1 or P2, mostly P1. And
okay.
for P3, I'm just going to be boring and stick with the Chadman with Chad Alonso. The guy's a freak, isn't he?
Okay.
Imagine what he could do with a Red Bull. The guy is just crazy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Driving the way he's driving.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, boring, but I think it's not boring because I went for Perez
Yeah.
P1.
No. Fair enough.
Because just one more thing to add, like to that whole Red Bull thing. Perez, I mean, we're talking about Perez challenging, but Perez has yet to beat Max, uh, on merit, hasn't he? Like, yes, he has
Mm.
beaten Max quite a few times. I mean, quite a few, not a lot, but quite a few times. But all those times, I would say, barring Monaco, he was faster. Make of what you will with regards to that spin, whether he did on purpose or not, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that weekend, Checo was anywhere faster than Max right
Yeah.
throughout, and even in the race. The problem is Max never had an opportunity to challenge because his Monaco is very tight.
Yeah.
He had to get through signs. There was always someone in front of him
Yeah.
between him and Checo. But um, I would say in Spain, even though they told him to step aside, I would say Checo was not ahead, but it was
Yeah.
matching pace. And the same with Baku.
Yeah.
But we have not been able to see an instance with Max and Checo actually fighting each other.
That's true.
And whenever Checo has beaten Max, or let's say, for example, whenever Checo has won,
Yeah.
Max has always had a problem.
Yeah.
So on merit, we still have to see whether Checo can actually beat Max.
Yeah.
So that's the
That's true.
only question mark, whether he can actually do it, and that
Yeah.
will probably give you an idea as to whether Checo can challenge for the championship or not. And we might see that in Australia, whether he can actually do it, because it's a street circuit. Max is just crazy fast, but Checo has experience. He's very good at managing the tires. He has that to
Yeah.
his advantage as well. So yeah, I think because of the whole street circuit thing, Checo takes the win.
Okay. I guess we'll
Right
find
now.
out in Australia.
Yeah. All this for Lewis and George to take P1,
I
P2.
highly doubt that, but I think I have a feeling Russell's gonna pull out a result. I don't know what it is,
Yeah,
but
maybe. But I think Russell had a really good race. I mean,
yeah.
decent race. In
Yeah.
Saudi, got the podium and then got it taken away. But
Yeah.
no, it's just Alonso didn't want to go for media duties, so
Yeah.
he pulled the prank on Merck and told that I have 5 second penalty, and took the podium back.
But yeah,
But yeah,
I think that brings an end to technically our second episode for Off the Grid this season.
yeah,
We had one episode cancelled. We had technical difficulties starting this episode. Abhishek nearly destroyed his laptop. If you all
yes.
have listened this far, that's some bonus content for you all. I wish I had recorded that on screen so we could have we could have put it in the video as well. But yeah,
Thanks, man.
that's it from Abhishek and myself, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yeah, see
See
you.
you. Yeah,
Where did this start?